I want to thank our sponsor, Flight Club Spirit, which is an aircraft-inspired collaboration between contemporary artists, graphic aircraft, and the internationally award-winning Defiance Distillery. They produce 8 different types of aviation-themed gin and rum, each with a different iconic aircraft pictured on the bottle to suit all different types of avgeek. Make sure you head to their website at defiancedistillery.co.uk to check out all their amazing spirits and products. So you've got quite the book collection behind you. I'll take a picture, I'll show people later. But well, is it all aviation based, or what do you like to read?
A lot of it, probably from a lot of it is. In fact, you're right, probably most of it is. There's a few novels and things up there. I tend to have a thin out of the novels because I try and keep the one. It's nice to have a few around, but it's nice to keep the ones that you probably will revisit. Yeah. So there's a stack there, but
if I see a Harry Potter book and I'll be a bit concerned.
Hide it.
Some tornado book. Yeah. But how many books have you actually written now then, or you produced?
So that RAF book was 6 that have been published.
Can you show the camera that one?
Yeah, of course can. So this was number 6, which and it's basically it's an operational history of the Air Force. So I work very closely with it, and I have worked for all but one of my books with an editor called Jasper. So sorry, there you go.
Yeah.
So Jasper rang me up one day a couple of years back and said, "Mate, I've got because we were sort of bounced ideas off each other, and we'd come up with the idea of the javelin tornado.
Yeah.
And he said, "Right, Michael, we're going to do." He said, "90 years of the RAF." So I said, "Jasper, do you mean 100 years?" 100 years of the RAF. Yeah, okay, mate. And so so this is it. And what it. There were 2 things really. Firstly, obviously numerous books have been written for the Air Force. My interest obviously was the operational side of it, because that's where my experience and interest lies. But what I found was that nobody had written a book which actually chronologically went through everything. So there was there's a book called by Michael Armitage, I think, produced in the 90s, Sir Michael Air Marshal Sir Michael Armitage. Well, anyway, it's always the book to get, but it didn't go through things so you'd read things and then you'd jump and then come back and the rest of it. But the other thing is that most of these books, almost all of them, are about the First War and about the Second World War, and then not left. There's 3 pages left saying, and then they did stuff. Full stop. Yeah. So on this, what I'm really proud about is the fact that the end of the Second World War is about halfway through that book. So the end of the Second World War was the Air Force had been 30 years old.
Right. Yeah.
So that's only 30% of.
Yeah.
Funny. Even I can do that maths.
Quick maths.
I'm getting this. You don't need a navigator around. So, So actually, 70% of the Air Force history happened after World War II. So to actually reduce it to sort of maybe just 3 pages or whatever.
Because I think we talked about that before. Sorry, I'm just making sure everything's correct here. We watched. I think I mentioned it to you about the RAF 100 documentary, and they just missed out the Cold War.
Well, that's right.
Which I thought was bizarre. Or they might have briefly mentioned it, but it was.
But there's so much other stuff that went through the 1950s. Not just the Cold. Well, yes, the Cold War stuff. Was it? But in terms of, the Korean War, which I've just started to work on. Would you believe? Yeah. But again, what I hadn't realised till I started looking into that was that there were about 80 odd guys who flew. Fast jets of some sort, either Sabres or F-84s or Meteors, with the Americans or the Australians out in Korea. It just kind of gets forgotten. There's a whole Suez thing. There's all the stuff that going on in the aid in the Middle East, the Far East, all through. Lots of Cyprus stuff, and then of course all through. Falklands, Gulf War, and on through to all the stuff through Iraq, Afghanistan, Iraq again. When you think about it, I joined the Air Force, and I'm a child of the Gulf War, of the Cold War, and that was my experience in my first 2 tours. And it was when I arrived, we did nuclear car race. You'd be there with your aeroplane with a nuke on board, ready to go.
Scary
so we sat there watching videos. And the funny thing was sitting there. So there's I think there are 4 airplanes where it was. So there's 8 guys sat there watching a video of The Sound of Music, and everybody go. Little tears in their eyes as whatever. And we were there with these huge, great bombs that could blow away a city just over there, ready to go at 15 minutes' notice.
It's crazy when you think like that, isn't it?
Well, it is, yeah.
In charge.
And that's why first we never. That's why I first came across Top Gun, because we. So you arrive in QRA and you generally you'd be there. Well, as a junior guy, you probably go 2 or 3 times a month.
Yeah.
and sometimes more, because the senior guys, the flight commanders, go in there and go, oh, I've got a meeting, right, send junior pilot. So that's me.
Yeah.
So, oh, hello, sir. Yeah, thanks, you're in. Another weekend in queue. But so there wasn't an awful lot to do. So we played board games, but we also used to watch videos. And someone was sent off to go to the local Napier or whatever it was to come back with a handful of videos. And we used to. One of them was Witness. I don't remember the film Witness. So
I've heard of it. Yeah,
okay. So the Witness came on, and the trailers, amongst the trailers were showing it, was this thing called Top Gun, and we go, wow, that's amazing. In fact, I remember one of the guys, sadly now deceased, who came back one day. So thing called Top Gun, but I said, loads of rubbish. I'm not watching that. What? but. And eventually it did come out, and eventually we all went off to the local cinema with wives and girlfriends who sat there looking at these triangular hulks playing beach volleyball and looked at us, beer guts, beer, and nah.
Yeah, it's a bit different, when the reality, But Top Gun 2's coming out. What do you think of that? Are you going to go and see it at the cinema? Or you...
It's one of those things you've got to do. I mean, the Top Gun was... It was a crap storyline, but it was just an iconic film, wasn't it? Really, and it was so well done, though. The US Navy are fantastically good. Because there was another film, what was it called now? And it involved an aircraft carrier going back in time. But again, the US Navy had, we'll remember it in a bit. But the US Navy had actually fully gone on board with that, and so in terms of their recruiting, it was a brilliant thing.
Was that the one where they're fighting like the Japanese?
That's right. Yeah,
so,
Japanese
I can't remember what it's called. Yeah. Yeah, but that's great footage, actually. I watched that online the other day, and it's really good.
It is,
It's really good.
And the US Navy took all these things on board and went, thank you very much, we'll do that. Because it got a massive sort of, everybody wanted to become a Tomcat pilot or work on the deck of, USS, whatever it's going to be. It will be interesting to see what it's like. I hope that it lives up. But again, I think so many of films, I know I'm becoming an old man, I know, but just... there's a CGI and things just so unrealistic. Whereas everything on Top Gun, except for the bit where they're upside down and doing the old bit to the bird to the MiG thing, was actually filmed. And it was real. I mean, somebody actually filmed airplanes actually doing
nothing
stuff.
Worse than CGI, especially in aviation.
Doing stuff that's not real. You think, really?
There was that. I don't know if you've seen it, and everyone got. I think everyone believed it. I can't remember what it was on, but it was let's just say a Boeing 747 CGI, and it was basically doing an aileron roll over the airport, and everyone was like, "Oh my god, I hope everyone's okay inside."
Yeah.
It looked so fake, but people fell for it.
And going back to the conversation, that's the thing about the whole sort of social media thing is the crap that puts on there. And nowadays, you can do so many clever things with videos and photographs and everything else that what you see is not necessarily.
Yeah, some of the editing out there, but everyone's a photographer now. The smartphones are getting so good. Just put.
Some of it's fantastically clever. Some of these songs you see put together.
Oh yeah.
But and you think, who's got time to do that? But
there's some people who spend too much time, and I do it because it is. I'm probably getting in trouble for this, but it is my job.
Yeah, no, that's fair enough.
It's not like people say it's not really a job. Well, it is.
Yeah.
But so that's. I don't think I would spend as much time on social media if I didn't do what I'm doing right now. It's just it's the best way to interact with people.
Well, it is actually. It is a great way to reach people, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, and YouTube's a fickle world, but sometimes I wish I never started this because it can be so hard work. But
worth it though.
Oh yeah, it's worth it. I get to do this.
Well, yeah, that's great, and drink this gin, which is rather nice. Actually,
exactly. Yeah. Nice.
But I think the great thing is that whatever you do it sort of goes back to my sort of motivation for flying the cadets is actually what gets people interested in flying in airplanes and all that is I think just so important. Mm-hmm. I think that. Aviation always is one of those sort of, I don't know, almost sort of geeky things, but it is so important to everything we do.
Yeah.
And I think it's really great that people do get encouraged to
it gets a bad rep though. I remember when I was younger, or even now, I'm saying going to an air show, they'd be like, nerd alert. It still has that weird stigma if you're not into it, which is a shame really, because I try to get my friends to go to an air show. And I'll just say it. Just imagine being at the park on a sunny day, having a barbecue and a few beers. It's like that, but there's planes there.
Exactly, yeah.
Which makes it even better. But they're like, nah, they won't have it, which is a shame. But do you get to air shows?
I haven't done a lot actually. I did back in. I was always, always in the wrong place at the wrong time. So I know. So I did some of the big ones. So RIAT when it started off at Greenham Common, I did a couple of those. Biggin Hill we used to go to when I was at university in London. We used to go to the Biggin Hill one every year, which is great. But again,
it still runs now, doesn't it?
It does, but it got silly really because people were doing, it became, how low can you go? And in fact, that's when the Invader got wiped out, I think, doing a sort of wing over thing. And I wasn't there for that one, but so, and again, because things have got, again, if you think back 20, 30 years ago, there were all these different airplanes around, but now there aren't, are there? Everybody flies an F-16 or an F-18 or a Typhoon, that's it. Or, whatever it's going to be. Although, actually, one of the things I saw, I did a RIAT a couple of years ago. My son and I went there, and it was this bloke it was an Italian. It wasn't a G222, but it ever came after that. Again, I'm sort of showing my Cold War vintage and he was doing aerobatics in this twin-engined transport airplane on one engine. I thought, that is just amazing.
Oh, I think I know what you're talking about, yeah.
That's amazing, utterly amazing.
But I have to say, I'll probably get absolutely rinsed for this. But
I
probably will. But I get really bored at warbirds, like Spitfires. For me, it's I don't know. One's enough, but people prefer to go to Duxford than RIAT. That's fair enough. Everyone's personal, but it's like Spitfire after Spitfire. It's like once you've seen one kind of thing, if it's all day, it's a bit.
I know what you mean, but because I was trying to think that about my interest really, and because I find a lot of modern day combat aircraft quite boring.
All right, fair enough. Yeah.
And I find the warbirds really interesting, but again, one of the big problems is that because there are so many Spitfires, whatever. And actually, it rolls into the whole aviation thing, really, of about books and things. Another book about the Spitfire,
Yeah, they're
really.
everywhere. Yeah.
Another book about the Lancaster, really. But publishers know they can sell them, so publishers go for it. So all the other things that are actually really quite interesting that just get shoved on one side. And I realised that if I went to Smith's today to pick up a few bits and pieces, and I had a quick look at the aviation magazines, and picture of a Lancaster on the front.
Of course, they're always on there.
Is there nothing else really? But oddly enough, the other day I was at Duxford, and we with a guy who'd been actually airline flying all his life, and we were pottering around looking at the airliners, would you believe? And there's this sort of noise. We looked up and go, "Wow, what's that?" And in fact, we end up working out as it sort of went in out of the clouds, it was a Mustang.
All right.
But again, it was just the noise of it, and it was just really impressive to hear it. And you don't want to listen to it all day. You don't want to see it doing lots. And I suppose the other thing is that when it does display, if it displays, it does it quite tightly so you can see it all in front of you. Whereas
maybe I'm just the odd one out, because I'd rather see a Tornado display over a Spitfire any day.
I'd like to see a mixture, to be honest with you. I think a nice mixture of everything, so you don't get too much of you don't want to see 17 sort of F-16s all doing the same thing, because they all do the same thing. And actually, I never did display flying. I never wanted to.
I was just about to get onto that.
Well, no, it struck me as being. No,
I think I asked you that before.
Struck me as it's quite funny actually. Because again, the Red Arrows is another thing. When I was at Chivener on the staff there, every single staff pilot applied to the Red Arrows, except me.
Really?
Except me. Well, they all flew Hawk and they wanted to do it, and I was thinking, actually, I think nothing I'd want to do less, frankly.
Yeah, there's a lot of people.
Why would I want to do that?
Ex-pilot, RAF guys, just don't want to be a part of the Reds.
No.
It's I don't know, I thought everyone wanted
Oddly enough, when I was there, one of my best mates was on the team.
Right.
And actually, the team that was there at the time were a really lovely bunch of blokes.
Oh, yeah,
very, very modest. So we're talking about 1991,
right,
92, that season. There was a bunch of really lovely, modest blokes who just wanted to fly airplanes and play golf, I guess, which I don't do. But they were a genuinely nice bunch of blokes who weren't into poncing around or anything like that. I think there had been in the previously, and I don't know. I haven't really followed. I don't follow them, so I don't know what's been like subsequently. But I think you do. It does appeal to a certain sort of ego, if you like. But somehow that year, or those 2 years or few years, it had actually mellowed into something really quite pleasantly nice of decent, good decent blokes who just want to fly airplanes and can do it very, very well.
But air shows I try to get to probably 2 a year or something like that.
Yeah.
But they're just getting smaller and smaller. And
They
more
are, aren't
expensive.
they? Yeah.
It's more expensive.
£45
for a ticket.
Really? Jeez.
Yeah, that's what we paid. And then you have to take in, like, everything's a £5, so a beer is a £5,
Well,
a
that's
hot
the
dog's
thing,
a
isn't
£5.
it? Yeah, yeah.
It's expensive.
It is, isn't it? And all the little stalls and that we go, oh, the bookshops are great to wander into. But
A lot of people are, like, because I've seen your patches on the wall here, a lot of people are into patches, aren't they? Are you a collector or anything like that?
No, I mean, those are actually. I just kept one patch from each of the squadron I was on, so it goes 14, 31, 151, 14, and my wings.
With your wings above. Yeah.
It was just a. But no, I don't actually. Oddly enough, my
hobby,
in the back of my car, my mother saw all the badges that I collected probably through training at first, and she stuck them all on a blanket. So I've got like a in the back of my car. There's like a picnic blanket, and it's got all these patches all over it. Yeah, and I've got a little tin trunk over there. It's got a few bits and pieces in it, which is because I kept them because you end up with these things, and what do you do with them? But
do you not kind of like models? Do you have like a model? I mean, you got that Tornado.
I've got a Tornado. There's a Hawk over there, which I think was made in the Philippines, and I wish I'd got a Tornado or something at the time, but I didn't.
You're not really into. Is it like a bit of like, because there's a lot of collectors out there that people collect parts as well.
Oh yeah,
so you know, the a fin off a Tornado or something like that. Pay a fortune for it, but yeah, I suppose it's a bit of a busman's kind of holiday, just collecting stuff.
Yeah, I think I've got a tin truck with a few bits and pieces in it. I've got it's got the umbilical from an AIM-9, so the missile, and so it literally is a bit of wire that long with a sort of a plug at one end and a whole lot of bent plugs at the other, where the missile's gone off the rail like that.
Yeah.
So that's there, and I did have a couple of 27mm cartridges, which
I've got one of them.
From the gun.
What about helmets? Anything that you collect? Do you have one of them from your time?
No, I don't. Oddly, here's a funny old story.
I think you told me that someone came up to you.
I did. Yeah, that's the one. Yeah.
That was a great story. Tell the story anyway.
Yeah, it was funny because I ended up. I was flying the Airbus in my Airways career, and I check in, and this guy comes up to me and says, "All right, we're flying together." Because what I should explain is that when you flying in the airlines, basically you've got a roster that says pitch up on this day at this time.
Right.
So you don't know who you're flying with, or you can see a name, but you don't know that.
Yeah.
And you probably don't know who it is. You've probably never seen it before in your life. So you pick, and it's a bit like sort of dogs all kind of sniffing each other's bums. You know, people sort of wandering around trying to work out who's who. And this guy comes and says, "Oh yeah, so we're flying together." "Oh really?" He said, "I'm so pleased to meet you." Really? I'm thinking, what have
I done?
Yeah, what have I done? Yeah. And he said, when I was a kid, I went to Bignor Air Display and I wanted to buy a helmet. One of these. My dad said, "Yes, you can buy one," and we got this thing down. And it came on. It had the name on it. It said Flight Lieutenant Napier. And he said,
crazy.
"And it's your helmet from whenever it was, 1980 something or other."
Wow.
And this guy had owned it, and he said, "I always wondered who this bloke was, and now I know." Yeah,
that's a pretty cool story.
It's fun.
Is that rare? I'm guessing that was probably a rare occasion.
I think it probably was actually. It was just unbelievable, really. This guy.
Is it a little sticker or something was on the side?
No, it was over the top actually. I think because there was the
like
cover over the. I think either the cover over the visor or something on the back of it that had the name on it.
Yeah.
And so the guy had seen the name, and then years later, gone, "Hang on a minute, that's the same bloke who
I recognise that name. Yeah.
But I think also, I mean, from my perspective, and probably from most of the guys who have actually flown all that, is you accumulate things that mean something to you as part of your.
So it's more like something from your time rather than
and I look back particularly on the photographs over there, really, of the photographs on the top line there are all of me flying an aeroplane. And the bottom line, the fact that the photograph of the Hawk has got all the signatures of the guys that are on my flying training course.
Yeah.
And the photograph of the people, again, the squadrons that I was on.
Yeah.
So that's where those come from, really. So they're things that do. Now that is it. Yeah. Well, that's actually not mine. It's I'm looking after it. I've got.
Is that the boss's jet? Is supposed to be?
It's the boss's flag actually from 1966.
Really?
Yeah. The guy who ran 14 Squadron in 1966 was a lovely bloke called Mac Furs.
Okay.
AFC. Why did you get an AFC? Well, I don't know what the story is about it, but the reality is the reason he got the AFC is because in 1950.
What's the AFC? Just in case.
Air Force Cross.
There we go. Yeah.
So the reason he awarded this is because in about 1953, 54, and I'm not sure the dates. I could look them up. They're in there. The RAF decided, or the RAF and the Americans between them decided they needed to take some reconnaissance photographs of Russia.
Right.
So the USAF had an airplane, but they didn't have the political will the UK had the political will, didn't have the airplane.
Right.
So the deal was, right, RAF crew, American airplane.
Right.
RB-45 Tornado, as it was. Actually, not that Tornado, but
Yeah.
And so this guy, Mac, was the second pilot in an RB-45 that flew over and was taking photographs, and they got as far as Kiev.
Really?
And then they started being shot at, and a whole lot of missiles launched, and a whole lot of fighters were launched against them, and they thought, oh, we better get out of here.
Yeah.
There were actually, that night, I think there were about 4 or 5 other RB-45s doing stuff, but they were the ones who attracted the attention. So they legged it out. So he got his AFC because he was in this, doing this completely and utterly secret mission.
Wow.
Flying over Russia, taking photographs.
That's crazy.
And he was a lovely bloke. He was, I met him in the sort of 2000s. He turned up to squadron associations and squadron reunions. And he was this bloke who, if you imagine someone like David Niven, who's somebody you'd imagine like being an absolute Hollywood star, but the ultimate gentleman, absolutely gentlemanly and courteous and the rest of it. And he was just, he was just everything you epitome of what you want as a film star and all that. And this was this guy. And he died a few years ago, and his brother got in touch. I went to his funeral, and his brother got in touch with me afterwards, earlier on this year, and said, Mike, I've got this flag, I don't want to do with it. And I said, well, I do. If you send it to me, what I'll do is I'll present it to the present 14 Squadron.
Wow.
Because I know they've got a flag from the First World War. So 100 years of history, 100 minutes. That's actually halfway through 1966, starting in 1916. Yeah. So I said, right, there's a squadron reunion in next month, and I'm going to present that to the squadron commander.
That's really cool.
For him to take away. Yeah. That's it. So that's his squadron commander's flag from 1966.
Cool. That's awesome.
And the bloke was an absolute gentleman and an utter star. He really was.
So what happens at these squadron reunions? Is it just basically a meal, or do you got?
Yeah, well, it's a meal. It's get together. It's
is it a public place, or is it on a base? Or
no. Well, we've done everything actually. We've tried various things. We did it. It was run when I started getting involved in it, again when I was on 14 Squadron years and years ago, it was run by a wartime guy, Joe Loader, who'd been a wireless operator on Marauders and then on Wellingtons back in the day. I think he's 97 or 98 now. But he was a lovely, lovely bloke, and he used to organise these things, and I got involved in it. I can't remember why, and then I said to him, I'll help you. And eventually that became, I'll do it. So I kind of took over, and he retired from running this sort of very loose association in the sort of about early 2000s. And I took over from there. And so again, going back to what I'd mentioned about how squadrons have their own characteristics or whatever, and 14 it's a very friendly, non-macho, if you like, sort of nice bunch of people. And so the reunions there's been people from wartime years all the way through up to the present day, and it's this sort of great sort of cross-section of people. And some guys come back every year, some guys come back once every 2 years, some every once every 5 years, and you get this mixture. So you end up this continuous mixture of people, all of whom know each other vaguely or have some connection. And have a few beers, and the stories come out. Have a nice meal, and then more beers, and more stories come out.
I guess.
And it's one of those things, classic things of things that everybody says every time is, you wish when you're 30, 20, 30, 40, whatever, that you actually had copied down all these stories. I remember being in a reunion in London where there was some old boy chatting away to us, and he'd been on mosquitoes at the end of the war and was flying down Norwegian fields and shooting up sort of shipping and God knows what else. And of course it was whatever, anyway, have another beer, and anyway, we can go faster than you can, and all that kind of stuff. And I wish I'd taken it all in really at the time. And actually I realise now also, because I ended up having a very long email conversations with guys in Australia, and then realising that I'd actually physically met them probably 10 or 15 years earlier, when they were probably in their mid-60s or whatever, and these were now guys in their 70s and 80s. And I thought, again, it's something I wish I'd known then what I know now, kind of thing. But again, I think it shows how important it is to keep track of things and to understand things,
Oh,
and
definitely,
to record things as well, really.
Yeah, I think so.
So that people can then later on, if they're interested, find out what's going on.
Yeah. Do you ever go to like tornado reunions?
Yeah, there's there is one that happens once a year, and I've managed one, I think, so far in the last 4 years, and it's one of those things that somebody said to me, you pitch up, and every time you turn a corner, there's somebody else you haven't seen very. Hey mate, how are you? And then you have a 2-minute conversation, and then hey mate, how are you?
Yeah, I've seen a few pictures. I'm guessing you know someone, John Nicol.
Yeah.
He always posts pictures of like their reunions, and it looks like there's a fair few of you.
Yeah, I mean it's literally it's hundreds over the course of a day.
Yeah.
But again, the problem with that almost is that you have so little time, so many people and too little time.
Yeah.
So the thing about a squadron reunion, if you like, it's nice because you have more time
of course,
and fewer people.
Yeah.
And then of course there's keeping up with your mates and all the rest of it. So
Yeah. So earlier we were talking about your son going into the RAF. So if you were going to pick now, which one would you go for, Typhoon or F-35?
I go for Typhoon. I mean, the thing.
Go for Typhoon.
Well, I think that there are a number of reasons why that. One of them is that F-35, you're going to spend a lot of your life on a boat.
Yeah.
Now, if that suits you, that's great. But actually, if you want to have a life, then I suspect it probably doesn't.
I don't think I could deal with that.
Bearing in mind, my son went to medical school and all the rest of it, so he's actually a bit more mature than the rest of them. So, if you're 19, you're on a boat for 5 years, wow, yeehaw, let's do it. When you're 25, 29, whatever it is, then maybe you don't want to do that. Or maybe you do it for, actually, everything in life, in aviation, you pitch up there, as someone says to me about flying the A380, it'd be great to do it for one trip and then go, thanks very much indeed, I've done it. So great land on the boat, thanks very much for doing that. So, Typhoon. But also, I think the F-35, again, we did mention about a lot of the flying perhaps being in the simulator.
Yeah.
Do you really want to, well, it probably won't be, but still, do you really want to do that? Do you want to spend it in a real aeroplane?
Yeah.
I mean, Typhoon, I think, is one of those airplanes where you end up, and I think you spoke to Goddard, I think.
Yeah, Goddard,
I did see one of the things about, and I've heard it said as well by other people, that it's an airplane, you go and you pull 9G, you come back with a smile that wraps 3 times around your face. It's so much fun.
Yeah.
And to actually get an airplane that's fun to fly would be, I think, the business.
Yeah.
Really.
Do you think
fantastic.
the Typhoon's going to be like that kind of last generation we're going to have?
I don't know. I think I'm not sure that F-35 is the way to go because it's so expensive and it's so, I wouldn't say limited in what it can do, but it's. I mean, the whole thing, and you can read this book about the RAF, is that all the services, and not just the British services, but across everything, is everybody's ready to fight the last war, or the war that didn't quite happen, but not the one that actually happens. Which again is why Tornado was so good in later on in Iraq, in Libya, in Afghanistan, because it could switch and it was flexible enough to be changed. Because actually, if you think this airplane was flying around Iraq at 20,000 odd feet, dropping or firing the old missiles that will take out one person at a single person using a laser guide thing, when it was designed to, when I flew it first, to flash across at low level to drop a nuke on somewhere in Poland and then come it's just back, at low level. That's poles apart. I mean, that is so far apart as to be almost untrue, and yet that airplane could do that. And so that to have an airplane that can do all of those things is really important. And can F-35 do that? I don't know. Do you need something that expensive? Again, the Russians always went a different way. When you look at MiG-21,
really rugged, aren't they? Yeah.
Yeah, and oddly enough, again, the book I'm just editing at the moment, which will come out next year, about Cold War skies, is all about Air Force of the Cold War. MiG-21, funny old thing. So MiG-21 arrives in 1960, actually is still there right at the end of it, but has been changed that many times. But again, because, as the Americans found in Vietnam, small manoeuvrable airplane. That's why they built the F-16, because of what the MiG-21 could do.
Yeah, because the F-4 had famously no gun.
Although they did later have a gun as well, but also it didn't have the manoeuvrability. It was a big, heavy airplane, a lightweight fighter that could, that was tiny. I mean, one of the big things, clearly I'm as a mud mover, I'm no expert, but we did do stuff at Chivner. We did train air defence guys, and now even flying the Tutor, I'm eyes out with a collision avoidance system with a FLARM, which is a glider avoidance system. I still can't. It'll tell me stuff's there, and I still find it really difficult to see stuff.
Really?
And it's not my eyes. No, because stuff is difficult to see, and if you've got a small, agile fighter that you can't see till it's in a position to shoot at you, then actually you're at a massive disadvantage. You might be flying an F-35 that's invisible to radar, but if someone can actually see it, then you're very, very vulnerable because you can't see them, and they're probably more manoeuvrable than you are. So again, do we go Typhoon? Do we go lightweight fighter? Where do we? I don't know where we go. Do we go something that's where we seem to go at the moment towards lightweight fighter, maybe, and drones?
Yeah. Well, I think they're trying to push Tempest quite a lot, aren't they?
I think that's right. Yeah. I mean,
that seems like it's going to cost a lot of money, and it'll probably take about 50 years to come into service or something. Because how long Typhoon was quite a while before it came in.
It was ages. In fact, it's funny because it's called
EFB,
again.
Was it?
Yeah, and in fact, when I was at Rheindarland, so we're now talking about the mid-90s, it's called EF2000.
Yeah, that's it.
We laughingly called it EF2015, where it was, and I can't remember when it actually came into service. But it was it was due to have originally come into service in about the mid-90s, I think.
I think the program started in the mid-80s.
It just slipped and slipped and slipped. Yeah.
Well, there's some pictures of already ones being scrapped. Two-seaters, the tranche ones or whatever.
Which is the bit that I can't understand, because having come through the whole of my Air Force or frontline career was a two-seat aeroplane.
Yeah.
I can't get my mind around a single-seat aeroplane to do some of the jobs we did, and I get that it's an easy airplane, and I get that you can stick it in autopilot and look down the old tile or the whatever the latest laser thing is, but what I can't get my mind around is the fact that actually 2 eyes and 2 brains are better than one. And what I can't get my mind around is that I know that the guys that I flew with a lot, and I just spent last week with my mate Cookie in Abu Dhabi, and we first met on our Chivna course. We flew together on 14 Squadron once. We flew together at Chivna when I was there. We flew together on 14 Squadron the next time.
Yeah.
And so it goes on. But we were always much, much better than the two of us added together. That whole crew thing, and the essay that you've got where there's 4 eyes all looking out in different directions. Is different from just 2 quite busy doing stuff. Yeah. So I my thought again was that maybe they're going to stick all the 2 seats into one squadron, and then you've got a 2-seat squadron.
Yeah, I didn't think of that. That makes sense. Yeah.
Well, they've got no navigators, so that's.
I know exactly. Yeah.
That's one of the things that struck me. I went up to when I was doing the Tornado book. Actually, I went up to Lossiemouth, and arrived on the OCU there, or Tornado Training Flight, maybe I don't know what it become by then. And the boss, a lovely, lovely bloke who was so kind to me and so receptive. But there was 1 or 2 students, and actually the one student that I recognised was the guy who'd been a student on the TWU course that I'd been the staff on 20 years previously. Oh. And he'd actually left, and they said, we're short of guys, can you come in? So he said, I suppose so. And so it was full of the back seat were massively, massively experienced guys. Yeah. But they'd all kind of done their thing and then come back to it. And the Air Force didn't train anybody. And I think that's almost criminal. Well, in fact, it was criminal because actually the backseaters are needed for things like all the big airplanes, particularly the maritime reconnaissance Boeing thing. They have 737 P8.
The P8 Poseidon. Is that
yeah. So you need guys for that.
I think they've been recruiting them, haven't they? So.
Well, they have, yeah.
Yeah, because I think the age was like 50 odd or 50.
Well, yeah, that's right, yeah.
And people within, is it right to go in? It's like, well, if they can do the job, who cares?
Well, that's right. It's funny actually because again, my kind of attitude to that has changed because having done the airline flying where captains are in their 50s. And later on 60s, I never quite made it that far because I got bored before it. But but in their 40s and 50s, where you're talking experienced guys. But on an Air Force station like Bruggen, when I was there, so most of the air crew would have been in their late 20s, early 30s. Most of the ground crew would have been a bit older than that because the sergeants and the chief techs and guys like that were experienced guys. So we're probably talking about 40s there.
Right.
But in terms of officers, we're talking most of the guys being early or late 20s, early 30s. We're talking about squadron commanders perhaps being early 40s.
Right.
We're talking about the old man, the station commander, being mid-40s. I mean, that's much younger than I am now.
Yeah.
And that whole sort of, it's a much, much younger culture. And sort of moving to the civvy world now, where it's a much I don't know. It's not. There's a much bigger age gap, perhaps between between the left hand and the right hand seat. Around. So, but again, it seems to be moving into the into the Air Force world as well.
Yeah. I think, yeah, well, because I first saw that post, and there's a lot of people actually I've seen who follow on social media, and they've actually, went back to, they're training in America at the moment, and they're about 50 odd. Right, so we've got this, what we got again, the same
back
as last
on.
time?
This is Hooky Gold, yeah.
Is this the local brew?
The local brew from Hook Norton, fine stuff.
So,
fine ale.
Do you have a local pub around here that you go to?
We do. There is a pub in the village actually, but it's derelict.
Oh, is it really?
Yeah, and has been for. It's one of those stories, sadly, of many pubs where somebody bought it, closed it, and then decided they want to make it into flats, and were told no, and so it's been going for probably about 30 years now. I mean, it's that long, yeah.
So tell us about your new book that you're writing at the moment. When's it finally coming out?
Well, the two that are running at the moment, I'm actually I'm actually running, or we're just editing one called. It's going to be called In Cold War Skies, and it's basically a history of the of the Air Force of the Cold War. So from 1949 through to 1989, so formation of NATO to the end of the or to the fall of the Berlin Wall, and just sort of tracking the aeroplanes and the way Air Force were organised and all that kind of stuff. The first bit sort of follow, or 4 chapters worth, does the NATO and the Warsaw Pact.
Yeah.
And again, it's actually quite interesting when you get into it, of how things were organised.
I can imagine. How do you go about researching that, though? For instance, like a random Air Force, how do you get into the detail of that?
It's quite interesting, actually, trying I do start online to see, because there are quite a few things that are published online, and there, for example, history of the Turkish Air Force, bizarrely, and the Danish Air Force. Some guys actually made the effort, and it's there sort of kind of for free, and the rest of it's putting stuff in. Books, I've got a whole lot in there. There's Canadian Air Force, there's the Soviet stuff, and
was that when you were asked me to, you were asked for Arnold's information? You asked for, was that for this book or something?
It was, because what we wanted to put in it was a few kind of I was there little stories.
Right, yeah.
And I dug up some Russian ones, bizarrely, because again, looking on through the internet, getting to articles and rest of it, you get little articles where published by people who. So there was guys who'd shot down a B-47, RB-47, I think it was. Again, the story was there. There was an interesting one about some guys who again shot down another American, an RB-66, I think it was.
These RBs don't have much luck.
Well, they don't, do they? But again, they were the guys who were pressing the test, really. And there was another Russian one, which actually, it was interesting. It was a guy who'd been witness to one of the big nuclear drops. So they'd actually been in this bear and dropped this stuff and pulled off, and then and seen all that happen, which was interesting to read. And he was, I think he was a regimental commander, and it was his memoir, whatever it was, and saying how proud he was that his boys had done this and they hadn't screwed up and everything. And then getting some sort of stuff back from the western side of it as well. A guy launched in lightnings and then switched off. Get airborne, everything switched off. Switch everything on. Suddenly, boom! Everything's full. Yeah. And it was I think it was the Russian Air Force had sent their 75th anniversary or something. They sent everything airborne, and he was there going, "Wow, what's happening?" Really interesting stuff from some Swedish guy who was launched from QRA in his Viggen, and discovered that he was actually intercepting an SR-71, which had an engine failure.
I think I've heard
these guys got got a US Air Medal out of it.
Wasn't there? There was a couple of them, wasn't there?
That's right. Yeah. But this was the guy who was actually launched from QRA, and he was a squadron commander. So he took his team and and actually I've just had one recently, which was really interesting. With a guy who'd been he was launched from QRA to look at a May. Maritime patrol aircraft over from he's a Norwegian, so he's in his 104, and he sees there's a couple of Mays on patrol. He comes back, and as he's coming back at low level, they drop down low level to look at some ships. He sees this contrail going fast. I wonder what that is. So reheat, pull, and his mate tries to follow him, but falls out, and it's a Foxbat.
Wow.
And so he rolls out, and it works. He said it works out perfectly. He comes underneath this thing and rolls out, and he's there. Whoa. And he realised that because he was supposed to be going home. So of course in 104 there's not a lot of fuel, and he's now into, oh my God, there's no fuel. But I've got to take some photographs, and he managed to snap a whole lot of photographs just as he came alongside and took last one, and the guy, there's this a bit like on the old, both of them looked around and go, hang on a minute, it was a 2-seat one, and off it went. Whoa. And he then
So you've got them photos. Are they going to be in the book?
I'm not sure if we can find the photos or not because they went back into the Norwegian
I see.
sort of thing. So we'll look and see. But we've got his story.
That's going to be brilliant.
So that'll be good fun. And what I also did, which was I found really interesting, was to go through and I'd done it in chapters of the sort of 50s, 60s, 70s, but also in the middle of each one to draw up an order of battle of all the units that were in kind of Central Europe.
Yeah.
And it's quite interesting to see what people had where, but also to see how the same units then so basically got re-equipped, and how, like the Canadians, you end up at one stage and the Canadians end up with, so they've got a group of 4 wings of F-86s that then eventually comes down to 3 squadrons of 104s, and how it changes, and that's just one example.
Yeah.
But also putting together all the stuff on the far side of the the Iron Curtain, all the Russians, the Poles, the Czechs.
Is that easy information to get hold of?
I tracked it all down eventually. I mean, there's a fair amount of looking through books, searching through websites, through all sorts of bits and pieces, and of course anything on the internet you then have to cross-check with somebody else to make sure it's actually correct.
Of course, yeah.
But again, it was an interesting project to just put it all through and to say, right, this is what everybody had, let's say in 1965, boof, there you go. And this is where everybody was, and this is the units. And, so, yeah.
And do you enjoy the process of writing and finding this
I
information?
love it, yeah. I mean, I am again, all these books, I am a closet man with an anorak and taking the locomotive's numbers down. I love it. I really love finding this stuff out. And I really also love finding stuff out and then getting stuff from in and then putting it all together, and putting it all together in a way. I'm a bear with a little brain, but in a way that even I can understand.
Yeah.
And I'm just doing one on. So I've just started one on Korea now. So we're looking at the Korean War. I was going to do it from the RAF perspective. Again, I've mentioned to you the 80 odd guys who flew all these different things. So there's a finger in every single pie there. But publishers say, well, actually, we want the whole thing. Interesting though to look at, well, what do the Chinese do, what do the Russians do, and again there are books on that, so I've got those books and I'm going through those. So
the publisher actually has a big say in what they want you to write as such.
Because they don't want to publish something they can't sell.
Right. Okay.
So whatever you as an author, if you're trying to write a book, you've got to be able to sell it.
But even if you've been working with that publisher for a while, does that just trust your judgment? Still no. Okay, I thought you'd be.
No, I mean, and rightly so. I mean, I don't know what will sell and what won't.
Right. Okay.
So I'm working with Jasper, my editor, who's got a pretty good idea. He's a guy who flew in the Fleet Air Arm in the 1960s.
Oh, wow.
And went into publishing in the 1970s. So he's even older than I am. But he's been in publishing that long. He's got a really good idea of what could work and what won't. And so between us, it's a matter of sort of working out where the opportunities are and what will or won't work and what I can and can't do. I know my own limitations, but I mean the fascinating thing about Korea is that nobody, as far as I can tell, has written the story from everybody's point of view. So there's lots of stuff on the American perspective.
Of course.
There are a couple of books on the Russian perspective, which are very biased.
Of course, yeah.
There's a couple on the Chinese perspective. And there's one that I've come across, which is written by an American, I have to say, but all about the North Korean perspective. So, the Australians were hugely involved. I hadn't realised that, but they had a squadron out there. South Africans are hugely involved, and again, I've got information from them as well. So it's putting all that together and making it work, but also making it in a way that's not that isn't biased in any particular way. And one of the nice things is that there's all this secondary information around.
Yeah.
But there's also, in the National Archives, and I've got a whole lot of stuff which is primary information from Brits.
Is that all public domain, that?
Oh, yeah, it's all public domain stuff. But it's stuff that, reports written by the by RAF guys about, well, I was there and this is what I saw and this is what we did and here's my assessment. And so you can then use that to sort of moderate the other things and make sure it all makes sense, which it does. But I'm one of the interesting things that, in a way, I mean, it's sad because it's all detailed, but I'm trying to string together what happened in the first about 2 months of the war, where basically the North Koreans invaded and everything pushed south very, very quickly.
Yeah.
And because I'm not in America looking at the original records, and that would probably take me years to get through all that anyway. I'm relying on secondary and official histories and things like that. But even so, they tend to, one says one thing, another says the other, and then you're trying to get dates and they don't quite match and all that sort of stuff. And I literally just found something the other day and went, wow, I've suddenly found the cruise report of a particular, the USS Valley Forge for these 2 days, and what they say happened at the time isn't what either these people say. So now I know that's the truth and those aren't.
Right, I see, yeah.
So it's actually really great to find the real information and go, right, do you know what? And so this will be a book which will be the kind of the whole of the Korean War, air war, put together.
And what publisher is this going to be
It's
with?
Osprey.
Osprey, yeah.
So Cold Wars comes out next summer, and Korean, I don't know what it's going to be called yet, Korean Skies or something, it's going to come out in 2021. So it's a shame we didn't manage to bring everything a year forward, because the Cold War ended at 50 years ago next year. Yeah. This year. Next year would have been 50 years for the Korean War. So everything's a year out, but there we go.
Yeah.
And to produce something which I hope will give the whole story of the air war over Korea in an even-handed way.
Yeah.
I mean, I hadn't realised, and not many people, firstly, that because the Americans thought they were fighting the Chinese to start with in their MiG-15s.
Yeah.
But they weren't. They were fighting Russians. Russians were very good. And actually, again, if you read the stories about, we took out and there was a 10-to-1 kill ratio. Well, there wasn't actually. It was about probably the other way around. Well, it wasn't around it, but it was probably, the MiG-15 was actually a better aeroplane than the Sabre. Yeah,
I've heard that before.
Again, one of the interesting things which I hadn't thought of, all these things you just never think of, but so a MiG-15 has got massive guns on it. It's got a 37mm cannon. That's an anti-tank gun.
That's huge.
Yeah, and two 27mm, which is what the Tornado had.
Yeah.
So it's got more guns than that had. So if one of those hit you, it would just take the wing off. It was designed to shoot down B-29s and things like that.
Yeah.
So if it hit a Sabre, you're going to take the wing off it. But it's really slow firing. So if you can turn inside it, it would be firing so slowly that it wasn't going to hit you. On the other hand, a Sabre had 6 machine guns. Okay, so off it goes. But and if you had a piston engine aeroplane with that, you'd probably take it out, because there's all the sort of coolant and God knows what else. In a jet aeroplane, particularly those original jets, which are really, there's a centrifugal turbine and all the rest of it, so they're really quite rugged and actually nothing else around.
Exactly, yeah.
You'd hit it, you just make holes in it, and then make no difference. So guys were looking at the film going, yeah, it's definitely a kill, which it would have been in World War II.
Yeah.
But now it isn't.
Yeah.
So guys were claiming, in good faith, were claiming kills, which weren't. And the guys would just go, right, dive down, thank you very much, I'll land this one, we'll put some patches on it, I'll get an airborne another one and go up again.
Exactly.
It
sounds like it's going to be a brilliant book. But
it's a fascinating project, so I'm really looking forward to getting involved in it.
We'll definitely keep our viewers updated on that. But before we wrap up, Mike, where can we find your books online and yourself? If
I do have a website, which is... I'm trying to remember what it is now, because I haven't logged onto it myself for so long. But it's mjwnapier.com.
Right.
And actually, I need to put on some details about the Cold War skies and the Korean stuff. But all that stuff is available. It's in bookshops or on Amazon. You can get them there. Yeah. So it's all there.
Do you have book pages on Facebook or anything like that?
No, I haven't actually. I haven't got around to that. And I've done Facebook pages for the Tornado book and for Tornado over the Tigris, which is my own recollections. And for the Javelin book as well. And it's difficult to tell whether those actually do translate, because people do like them and follow them. Whether those translate into book sales or not, I don't know.
I mean, it depends how much you push it, but
it does. And I mean, again, I don't feel the need to push the RAF book to an extent. I don't feel the need to put with this new publisher who actually do things themselves. The Tornado of the Tigris book, which is my own recollection, is the one that I'm probably most proud of, because it is that. And I do try and put stuff out every now and then. And I think I've got something like 700 followers or something.
That's pretty good.
And I've got, and we've sold, I think there's about 800 hard copies and about 750 odd e-copies.
And is it possible for people to get signed copies, or is that?
Yeah, if people contact me, they can do. I've got some here which I can do. So they can do that, and it'd be great if people can do that.
If people want, I'll put them into your way.
Yeah, and I mean, I don't. Again, it's one of those things. Difficult to sound arrogant or else trying to flog your own stuff, but I think it is quite a good book, and people who've read it seem to really enjoy it.
It's got great reviews, yeah.
Yeah, so it isn't just me saying that.
Exactly. But
if people want to buy that, and I think it. I mean, again, it does evoke that sort of the Cold War as it was, but also that change between that and then the sort of high level stuff over Iraq that carried on for years and years and years and years. Well, right up till almost now, really.
Well, brilliant. Well, as I say, I'll link all your stuff up, your website. Hopefully, it'll be updated by the time this goes out.
Well, don't forget to buy the gin either. That's nice.
Yeah, the gin. Yeah, it was absolutely brilliant. So
it was actually. It's really nice. And I have to say, you kind of always think, well, really, when it's a high octane, but actually, that was really nice, wasn't it?
Yeah. They have a few. I think they have about 8. So this is a Tornado one, which is very apt, and it's by Defiant Distillery. So
it is.
Check them out. So, but Mike,
thanks
very much for
cheers, mate. Yeah, nice to see you.
It was absolutely brilliant.
Cheers, mate. Yeah.